Hello, I'm Jenefer, founder of Silk Helix, and today I'm talking references and why I think they are a complete waste of time. So you've gone through your recruitment process, you've wanting to offer this person a job, they sound impressive, they sound like they've got what you're looking for, and then you go and ask somebody else's opinion. Why do we do that? If you're in an industry like education or care, then you have to for regulatory purposes. Ignore everything I'm saying, you must take references if you're in those sectors. But for everybody else, this is a business decision. It's your decision to make. There's no law that says you've got to take them or that you don't take them. It's entirely your decision. But these are my reasons as to why I don't think they're worth taking. I think that they take up management time and they don't bring very much benefit. Firstly, probably the biggest reason is that most people now will only supply confirmation of someone's dates of employment and possibly their job title. Particularly if you're going to a big company to ask for references, it's going to the HR department who are simply looking it up on their system. They don't even know who the person is and they'll confirm that they worked for them. And that's all you'll get on a reference. And for that, you've had to go to the effort of writing to them or emailing them to ask for that reference, probably chasing it up because it's not really a priority for the business you're asking. You're asking them a favour as well. I've actually had people asking me for references in really demanding ways, as if they're somehow entitled to it. And of course, in many industries, barring those, as I say, in regulatory industries, there is no entitlement. You are asking for a favour. So what we find is when we've gone to all that effort, we've tried to politely ask for our reference and all we get back is dates. Reason 2 is the common belief that you can't write a negative reference. That is a complete myth. It's not true. What you can't write is an untrue reference, and you can't write a reference that you can't defend. So if you're going to write a reference that complains about an employee's performance, you can only do that if you've gone through a process with them, if you've spoken to them about their performance, and there's been some kind of formal decision, usually through a disciplinary process, that means that you can then defend talking about it and telling others about it. So yes, it's a myth that you can't write a negative reference. If you've given somebody a disciplinary warning, whether that's for capability or conduct, you can say that in a reference. But if you haven't talked to the individual about it, if you've not been dealing with performance with them, you can't say anything about it in a reference. And that's something to be really aware of, because in most cases, if somebody's not performing, they end up leaving the job before it's gone through that process anyway. So the reference is unlikely to give accurate information. And so many people are so afraid of giving that information that they won't give it anyway, so you're unlikely to find it out. And kind of moving on from that, but on a similar vein, a reference is just one person's opinion. So we do find cases where we'll get bad references about somebody and actually they prove to be a really great employee. You can't necessarily trust that the business that you're asking for references from is reliable. So whilst there's a common myth that you can't give negative references, and many people for that reason won't, you've also got people who will give negative references. And that could be for a discriminatory reason. It could be that the manager feels that this leaving employee has neglected them, or it could be that there was some kind of clash, that this person didn't perform well in that particular role, but actually with the right manager, the right environment, they would thrive. And this is the problem with asking somebody else's opinion. You don't actually know that the person you're asking that opinion of is to be trusted to give that opinion. Number 4, you're asking the candidate to provide you with the referees. Reality is, they're not going to tell you the name of somebody that they think is going to give a bad reference. Simple as that. I'm not sure what else I can say on that one. Number 5, companies and people move on. We used to be in an environment where people had a job for life, or at least for a long time, and companies existed beyond the people that worked for them. For many people now, companies that they worked for previously may no longer exist, or the managers that worked with them may no longer be there. And this is in part why we end up going back to point one that we made about getting just names and dates. Certainly, some of my previous employers, certainly the big ones, there is nobody still there for when I worked there. And therefore, if you went back to them for references, you would simply get the HR department saying, yeah, we found you on our system and these are the dates that we can confirm she worked for us. You're not necessarily going to get the opinion of the manager that actually worked with them. And even if that manager's still there, many companies have policies of not allowing managers to give those references. So it's really hard now to guarantee that you've actually got referees and you've got referees still working for the company that can give a valid opinion. Number 6, not everyone can access references equally. I've just given one example in that companies and managers move on. So somebody's previous employer, even multiple previous employers, may no longer exist. Those companies may have gone under. They may no longer have contact with the managers and be able to get references. But there's many other reasons why people can't get references. School leavers, for example. Okay, they can give educational references, but how valid are they really? How is education really like work? And how many people do we hear who didn't get on very well at school but get on really well in the world of work? So there's little value to going back to education often for references. But you've also got, say, parents who have left the workforce for many years to look after children, for example, coming back to the workforce, may find it really hard to provide you with 2 referees. This doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a bad employee. In fact, it really doesn't mean they're going to be a bad employee. There's going to be lots of value in people who either want to come back into the workforce or are just starting out in the workforce. Or maybe people who haven't had a role in the UK before or haven't had a role in the UK for many years. So many reasons why it may be difficult for people to get references. And therefore you may miss out on a great employee simply because you can't get the opinion of somebody else. And my final one is that often references, even if they do give us opinions and give us information, they're often really hard to read. The number of times I've read a reference back once we're looking to dismiss somebody, probably during their probationary period, you read that reference again and you go, oh, now I get what they were trying to say. Or reading between, yeah, I can see the between the lines now. And I didn't see it the first time I read it. Because they're afraid of giving a negative reference. They try and write something that they believe is accurate. And when we're looking to take on that opinion, often we don't see it, we can't see it because we don't have the context. So it can be really challenging to get a reference that's actually of any value to us. So should we stop taking references? Well, as I say, if you're in a regulated industry, do not stop taking references. You must take references. But if you're anybody else, think really hard about the value they're giving you. Think about how valuable the opinion is of somebody else, somebody that you don't know. You don't know how they run their business. You don't know if they have discriminatory attitudes, for example. You don't know what their management style was like and how that may have impacted the individual. So many things that you don't know. For me, I would say the better thing to do is to really home in on your recruitment process. Make sure that you are looking at CVs, rereading them, talking to people about them in the interviews, really understanding somebody's experience rather than making assumptions. It's really easy to sort of read something and go, oh, they've got a degree in that, therefore they must know about it. Really ask them in the interview, question that. And then use the first few months of employment to really assess whether you've made the right decision, because that is the only time you're going to know. A recruitment process is a sales process. Some people are really good at selling themselves, some people aren't. Some people are great at the job and some people aren't. Your first few months is where you're really going to find out. Taking the time in the hiring process and then dismissing if you find out that they're really not right for your business or they haven't got what they said they had on their CV, they're not proving to have the skills that you thought they had, then you can dismiss them. Many companies use a probationary period for this, but the reality is in the first 2 years of service, you can dismiss without a full disciplinary process and they can't necessarily bring an unfair dismissal claim. They can bring an automatic unfair dismissal claim, so do be cautious about dismissing somebody and be really clear as the reasons to why you're dismissing. These are going to be performance reasons. This is going to be somebody that you've employed, they're not living up to what you thought they would, and hopefully you've set expectations of that early period. You've set out what you want them to be achieving in the first 3 or 6 months. They don't do that, or you find they just don't have the skills to do it, then you can dismiss them. Know you've got that. Know you've got that to fall back on, and don't be afraid to fall back on it. For me, I would say that's a much stronger place to be than it is to rely on somebody else's opinion. There are plenty of different opinions on references. Some people love them, some people hate them, some people are still taking them up and some people aren't. Please do tell me your views in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. It's great to see what other people are thinking. If you're finding our videos useful, hit subscribe, hit that notification bell, and make sure that you don't miss a single one. Thanks for watching.